What's up, agency owners? I'm excited to bring you another episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass. I have an amazing guest all the way across the pond in the UK, and he's going to talk about how he's been scaling his agency over the past 8 years and some of the tribals and tribulations. Now, before we jump into the episode, I want you guys to take a screenshot, tag us on Instagram, and we'll give you about a shout out when the episode, when you actually do that. So we can recognize you. So let's go ahead and get into the show. Hey, John, welcome to the show.
Jason, pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to have you on. So tell us who you are and what do you do?
My name is John Quinton Barber. It's quite a posh name. It's a UK name, John Quinton Barber. And I'm the founder and chief executive of a marketing digital agency called Social here in the UK.
Awesome. And so how'd you get started?
Well, believe it, I'm 50 years of age. So I've had 30 years in media and communications and PR. And when I hit about 43 years of age, I had this urge that I wanted to set my own business up. And probably quite a few of the listeners will be relating to this right now. And I had this urge, put it back in my mind, thought, I can't do it. And I just took the leap and did it. So 8 years ago, I set up Social. And what I wanted to do was just bring a different type of agency to the UK market, because agency world had got a little bit staid. It was offering PR, but it wasn't offering much else. Social media was just about emerging as the next big thing, next best thing. So I took the plunge and set up the agency with not a lot of money in my pocket, to be honest, but a whole host of confidence. And yeah, 8 years on, we've gone from what I set the agency up on about in dollars, about $10,000. We're now about $5.5 million after 8 years. So it's been one journey from 2 people to 48 people right now, and there's a whole host of learnings.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember kind of doing that jump, and there's many stages that you go through. If you think about it, and I always looked at it as kind of like the stages of like climbing a mountain. Like the first, you're kind of like surveying of like, do I really want to climb that mountain, or which mountain do I want to climb? What were the stages that you went through over the past 8 years that were a point where you were like, I mean, were you ever at a point where you just was like, no, this is not for me, like I want out? Or what, like, describe some of the hard parts and how'd you get through them?
Never had that. Never had that moment, Jason, where this is not for me. I've always felt it's
Good.
for me. It's almost like a missionary zeal within me to make this work. The pain points. So as we know, when you set an agency up, it's about survival. I've got a family. I've got 2 young children. There were 2 young children at the time, and it's about survival. I need to bring the income in, and you find yourself doing everything from, planning a business, servicing the clients, wiring the IT under the desk, sorting out the HR and the finance. So in the first 2 years, that's what life was like. And we hit £1 million, so about $1.5 million in about year 3. And that's when, for me, not the funding, well, it wasn't fun anymore, but it was just like, oh my God. When there's about 10 people in the agency and we're bumping along at about 1 million, life was good. We all knew each other. We all knew each other's strengths. We could work together. But as soon as we hit that £1 million mark, that was it. We then had to refocus on, actually, this is a business. And I had to make some decisions, because I decided then it wasn't a lifestyle business. I was plowing back every penny back into the business, and taking a very modest salary, because I have this vision that we can make this business into something really big and really special. And that's something I've kept within me all the while, and I'll keep all the while until the end, until a big event at the end.
Well, I
But I
think,
have to say, sorry.
yeah, no, I think you really hit something I want to point out is you had a crystal clear vision. A lot of us, when we get started in the agency, it's kind of accidental and we really don't know where we're going. We're just reacting to all the work coming to us. And then I remember going through a pivotal point too, like you did, of going, all right, wow, it's like you make this certain threshold and you're like, man, it's kind of not fun right now because the whole business has changed. But if you don't have that vision of where you're going, you can't make it to the next part. It's kind of like if I want to reach the summit, and you kind of get up to like what I call like, the crux, right? That's kind of like in the middle, right? You're in the climb and you're like, well, I kind of liked it back at base camp. Like that's where the party was. But talk about when you're at kind of that crux and you're kind of like, all right, we're at the million and a half or dollar mark. What did you have to do? Was it about building the team or?
It was. I mean, my kind of like epiphany came when who is my chairman now, and he's in his 60s, late 60s, and he's not a PR man. He's a financier, and he said to me, he said, John, you created something special here, and you could actually float this in years to come. And I was like, float it? I mean, I had to Google float it. What's that? Float it? I'm trying to survive here. And that probably sowed the seed for actually the ambition I've got and the belief I've got in myself. So what I decided to do was, okay, we're hitting the million mark. I'm now going to have to invest in a team around me to do the HR, to do the finance, to do the day to day. And I describe it like this, Jason. It's this is my always when people say to me, I want to set a business up. I say, okay, you need somebody to look after yesterday. You need someone to look after today, and you look after tomorrow. And what I was doing yesterday, today, and tomorrow. What do I mean by that? Yesterday is basically someone who can sweep up after you. So basically, all the kind of processes and the HR, the IT, and all the legals around a business that's all consuming. Find somebody to look after yesterday. The today is about ensuring you're creating great quality campaigns, working with clients, giving them the best service, and ensuring that clients are happy, clients are delighted. And the tomorrow is about strategy. It's about the vision. It's about where you want to go. And I just, again, as I say, it was like year 3 when this hit me. And my God, between 1 million and probably 2 million, the pain hit me. It hit me where it doesn't hurt. And we made loads of mistakes where in the UK, I'm in Manchester, which is in the north of England. And, the eye on the prize was, let's open a London office. Why? But, we need a London office. And we opened a London office in year 4. And we shut it down in year 5 because we got it all wrong. We got the wrong people. We didn't have the right business strategy. We just approached it in a completely wrong way. Delighted to say today in 2021, we now have another London office and it's doing really well. So we learned lots of lessons. So.
Yeah, I look at it as if you look at kind of 3 lines that an agency can be on, right? The first line, especially, it happened last March, right? A lot of people panicked and they kind of went into, a fear-based mentality. And I look at those businesses, they're barely surviving. Like they've just gone straight down. And then I look at other agencies, and I've been in this spot in the agency world for a couple of years of running the agency. You're kind of on this unfocused line, and it's kind of the roller coaster line. Let's call it the roller coaster line, right? And these are the preppers. These are the preppers of like saving up all the money and all that kind of stuff. And then you have, and I'm glad you mentioned focus on the strategy to the tomorrow. Let's call that the strategy line. These are the people that are in kind of positioning mode of going like, how do we take over, more market share? How do we acquire more talent? How do we acquire, which we've talked about in the pre-show, acquire more agencies, right? And you're really kind of taking up another level. So I want everyone listening or watching to go, what line have you been on? And what line do you want to be on? And hopefully you guys want to be on the strategy line, but you may be like, you have to be honest with yourself of going, are we on the roller coaster line? Because the only difference, like you said, was leadership.
Yeah, no, Jason, we're all on that. We're all, we all default back to some of them positions. It's not all rosy in the tomorrow world, but I had to, you have to dig deep. You have to dig deep in 3 things for me: in confidence, in your reserves, so your own health and well-being, because it's a big journey. But then you have to dig deep into your pockets, and you have to invest in people, the right people. And if you looked at my business about 4 years ago, you'd go, John, you're barely making a profit. You're growing quickly. You're spending quite a lot of money on the center. So business development team, finance team, HR, and a really quality number 2 guy. It's cost me It's a decent salary. But that investment is now starting to pay off. We have got in our business now 8 P&Ls, so we can bolt on P&Ls, and we're now starting to see the reward. But the mindset for that is, it's sacrifice. You have to make them sacrifices. It's almost like when I hit year 4, it felt like year day 1 again, because I was having to kind of on this cycle of sacrifice, and now I'm on year 8. I am reaping the rewards, and it is so. My message to anyone listening is: if you've got a growth journey and a growth plan, just go for it. Get the right talent, not the talent that is necessarily going to deliver, for the clients, the talent that's going to deliver for you, sitting by your side to help you grow and scale your business.
Yeah, I love that you said kind of invest in your company, and a lot of times people misunderstand me. A lot of times when I say, "Hey, the only thing that matters in your agency is your profit margin, and are you making money?" That matters when you get closer to having an exit or a liquidity event later on. But in the middle or in the beginning, I'm like, invest as much as you possibly can, because you totally control everything. Like, you can put money in the stock market, and I encourage you guys to do that as well. But you don't control any of it. It's like literally bet on red, bet on black. It's a little more calculated, but with your agency, you can totally control the situation way better than anything else. So if you're listening, make sure you're investing heavily. You don't have to have 32% profit margins year over year. I know a lot of people reach out and they're like, I'm worried, I'm at 15. I'm like, well, you're not even close to selling, so don't worry about it.
That's very no, it's true. It's true, and it's I do a lot of reading, obviously, around some of the more successful companies, and these successful companies didn't make a profit until they, like I say, they were 2 years before listing or selling. And profit isn't really important. It's a fuel. I keep telling our colleagues, it's a fuel that makes it grow. But my mindset, and it's interesting, there's some peer agencies in the UK agency owners that we have a drink with and we chat to, and sometimes I look at them through real kind of like envious glasses, because they're out having holidays 4 or 5 times a year pre-COVID, and and that's great. I'm all for that. I'm all for the lifestyle business. I think that's fantastic. You made a decision, but for me, it's just, as I said before, Jason, it's quite missionary with me. I've got a mission, and I'm going to make it, and it's going to happen. I'll scale this business, and I'll take it to the UK AIM market, because I believe we've got a great proposition for investors. The one thing that Jason, again, you'll be so familiar with this, is about culture and people. So whilst all this is happening with today, tomorrow, and yesterday, and invest in the centre, I had to make sure that social has to be the best agency to work for. And to say we invested a lot in the culture is wrong, because it sounds like it's forced. We nurtured the culture that we were creating, and we've got a fantastic culture now. And I know every business owner says that, and that generally have, and we continue to invest in that now with our people. So the pandemic for us didn't really hit us. We grew through the pandemic, both financially, and we added 9 new people during the pandemic year. So that kind of helped. I think all the groundwork in the first 5 years helped us through this tricky year.
Well, I know some people, like, they're on the strategy line, and usually you can accelerate your growth in a time like this. And they're literally like, we don't want this to end, because we're, like, we're just reaping the benefits, for it. So let's talk about kind of like the transition from building the right team, right? So I look at that as kind of, when you're building the right team, you're in the crux. But then kind of the next level up, I look at the crest, and you're starting to build the leadership team. So let's talk about that, because not many people do. What does your leadership team look like, and how did you go about building it? Like, and would you go in the right order, the same order? So a lot of times people go marketing, sales, or do sales and marketing, operations, that kind of stuff.
Well, for me, the first kind of the first, again, eureka moment or epiphany moment for me was the operations side of it. And so I brought in who is my number two now, Rob, and he's managing all of the operation side of the business, and that was the first kind of key hire in that space. We are now a leadership team of 9 across the business, heads of and directors, and that team has taken time to build. And that team is, we're a trusting team. We work well together. We're not scared of friction, which is healthy, I see, and I believe in. But yeah, for me, it was very much about operations. The business had to operate, and had to operate effectively. So bring that person in. I had a mantra about, and this is a really good test for anyone who's listening. The mantra is, if you weren't in the business for 3 months, would it run? A. And would it grow? B. And obviously, your priority is it has to run. So get that right. Make sure, and it's a good exercise to do is to visualize this. But just don't be happy with it running. It's got to grow. So what do you need to make it grow? So to make it run, I brought the right people in. And then to make it grow, I've empowered the people in the business they need to make it grow, not just me.
Yeah.
And again, I'm off after next week for a whole month now. I'm taking sabbatical. My phone is off. Everything's off. They can't get hold of me unless it's burning down. And that's the first time in 8 years. But again, this is what I really want to reach out to anyone who's listening, who's in that probably 2 or 3, 4 year phase. Just stick at it, because you get the right people and the right counsel and advisors in your business, you can make it.
Yeah, I look at it as, and I'm actually showing a lot of our mastermind around this now of going, what are the things, if you audit your calendar from the past couple weeks, what are the things that totally drain you? Which are the things that give you energy? And then when you look at the ones that drain you, because that's the things that, like, you have too many of those, that's when you're like, screw it, I'm out of here. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. All right, or let me sell for this low valuation. I'm done. Which you benefit from. And you're like, oh, you got low energy, I'll buy you, right? So if you guys are in the UK, obviously go check them out. But what I tell people is look at the low energy, and then outsource or delegate or hire for that stuff. Like, I don't know why we always hire for things we don't have any clue on. Like on our it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I've been guilty of this. I'll be like, I know nothing about pay-per-click. Let me go hire someone to do pay-per-click. Rather than like, I know everything about UX. So let me hire UX because I can manage that and then figure out a process. Like, it's just goofy. What are some things, in switching focus a little bit, what do you do in order to build your leaders within the organization? Because at our top level masterminds, we're always talking about that. And it's also recruiting. Recruiting is a really big thing. Like, we cannot find enough people, it seems like. So how are you building leaders? And then is recruiting your biggest issue too, as well?
On building the leaders, it's important that we've got like a program. So there's a few ways. Yeah, so we work with an external provider who does a year-long leadership course, and I send. In fact, I'm there on Thursday for the graduation of 2 of my leaders, and I'm dead proud of them. I've got the cards here. The cards are written there, and so I went through it. 3 years ago, and now quite a lot of all of my leaders will be going through it, and that's a day a month commitment from them, and they have they all the topics are from culture to finance to leadership to behaviors, and people go through that process, and I see them during the year just grow and blossom, which is fantastic. And then I encourage them individually to find a mentor. And that's not me, someone that they can confide in, probably about me. If they want to moan and groan about me, then they need someone externally that they can have that. And again, we have identified a person for them in their life, and the company pays for that if it's a paid thing. So that you can never get enough of external kind of like counsel. Myself, I have a mentor. I've had one for 5, 6 years. I belong to a board, the alternative board, which I know is in America. And I sit on an alternative board every month, and I just sit there and cry about people and money, because that's the 2 issues that always come up. but yeah, so leadership for me is I want to just invest. And I said to one of my colleagues today, my strategy here is to get you working less and your reward going up every year. And that's what we've got to get you doing as a leader. And if you're working less in the business, then you're winning for me.
Yeah. And then what about recruiting? Is that a big challenge for you guys, like finding enough talent?
Absolutely, it really is. It's to the point where it depends on the area recruited. So I imagine digital and social. That's really really sought after for obvious reasons, and that's challenging to recruit in them areas. So we want to do a blend of three things. We want to grow our own. So we want to grow our people that we've already got in the business because they're very valuable to us, not in just not in monetary terms, but in just in their futures. We want to. I think you mentioned before we're looking to acquire an agency. So we're looking, where we can't build a team because there's actually the talent or the talent pool looking for jobs or employment isn't there. We're looking now just to hire to acquire a boutique agency, particularly in the digital space. And the third area is looking at apprenticeships. So we're looking at bringing kids out of school instead of kids going to college, school, or university, straight to us, and we'll run a program with them. So that's something we're looking at for the next 18 months. But I'm glad to hear, or we shouldn't be really glad to hear it's the same in America. But if the talent is just it's strange. We're going through a strange time.
Well, what we found, in our agency and all the other agencies in the mastermind is when you get to a certain level, and it's around about 3 million, you're because you've built an amazing team, you're building the leadership team, but it's hard to continue to find really really good people, and it takes them a while in order to adapt to all the processes that you had. And so a lot of times what we'll do is we'll say, like kind of like you, we'll bring someone in on the junior program and show them a couple tracks. You can go kind of the skilled track or you can go the manager track, and then show them the different layers or levels that they can go up, and it makes a huge difference because, like I'm thinking of Zach's agency now, like to train their account strategist, it usually takes about 2 years.
Yeah,
Right? Like, so you got to start thinking 2 years prior, like, how do we get all these people up? And it makes a really big difference. So, yeah, I always love when I chat with people all around the world and they're like, it's very different over here. I'm like, we got all the same issues.
that's good to hear. No, but it is, isn't it? And yeah, I can imagine you do. And it doesn't matter how much. I mean, one of the things is obviously pay and reward is very important, isn't it? Of course, but actually culture again, progression, L&D. If I'm honest, our learning and development is just catching up. We've made huge strides in that area. We've got to do much more, so we're working on that. So we are catching up with the high growth of the last 8 years, to make sure we've got all that in place.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the audience?
Um, I think for me, it's about looking after yourself. And I think again, just it's really resilience is really really key, and nothing more has been mentioned. Sorry, what's been mentioned a lot more over the last 12 months is well-being. So acknowledging that you are human, acknowledging that you haven't got all the answers, acknowledging that it's lonely there at the top, and obviously you've got the mastermind course, which is fantastic, Jason. And again, if you can find something like that, or find something where you can find a buddy or a mentor for yourself, absolutely take it on, because you've got to have that in your life if you want to grow big, because it's a challenge.
Yeah. Well, John, where can people? What's the website address people can go, especially if you're in the UK and you're going, hey, I want to be a bigger part of a team, and you could buy me, John. So where can they go?
Love to talk to you. Love to talk to you. Well, it's very simple. It's social.co.uk.
That's great. That's awesome. I mean, that's a very easy URL. I've had some guests on that literally they
Yeah,
spell it out like 5 times and you still wouldn't even get it. So congrats on getting that. And thanks
thank
so
you,
much for coming on the show.
Jason.
And if you guys
Thank
enjoyed
you.
this episode and you're in the UK and you want to possibly sell, go check him out. And no, this is not sponsored, but he did drop a lot of amazing bombs. So go check that out. And if you guys want to be surrounded by amazing people on a consistent basis, I would love to invite all of you to go to digitalagencyelite.com. This is for agencies all over the world where we share the strategies that are currently working and little shrink moments, right? Like we can like cry on each other's shoulders to get us through. But go there, and until next time, have a swank day.